The emerald corridors of Overlord Zenith's fortress cast an eerie violet glow across Hayden Stone's battle-worn armor as he faced the alien noble. His patience wore thin with each passing moment. The Overlord's azure skin shimmered with barely contained amusement as he reclined on his crystalline throne, surrounded by armed sentinels whose trigger fingers twitched eagerly. "My esteemed human guest," Zenith drawled, his platinum eyes glinting with cruelty. "Surely you understand that. Resources are scarce these cycles. Credits are difficult to acquire." Hayden tightened his jaw, the muscles in his stubbled face tensing. "We had an agreement, Overlord. I eliminated your marauder problem. Now fulfill your end of the bargain." Zenith's laughter echoed through the chamber, a sound like shattering crystal. "But I have something far more valuable than mere credits to offer you." He gestured to his guards, who disappeared behind an ornate doorway. "I don't have time for games," Hayden growled. "My vessel needs repairs and—" The words died in his throat as the guards returned, pushing a hovering platform. On it lay one of the most captivating beings he'd ever encountered. Her skin was a delicate silver blue, her flowing hair the color of midnight mist. She wore an elegant ivory gown that accentuated her figure in ways that made Hayden momentarily forget his mission. But it was her eyes that truly captured him. Fierce, intelligent, burning with barely contained rage. "Meet my daughter, Lyra," Zenith announced with theatrical flourish. "She's become rather inadequate since an unfortunate incident left her immobile below the waist. Quite useless to me now, but perhaps you might find some value in her." Lyra's voice cut through the air like a plasma blade. "Father, you cannot—" "Silence," Zenith snapped. "The exchange is complete. Guards, assist our human visitor in loading his new acquisition onto his vessel." Hayden stared at Zenith, then at the furious princess. This had to be some kind of twisted joke. But as he watched the guards roughly maneuver Lyra onto a hover stretcher, he realized the Overlord was entirely serious. "You can't simply give away your own daughter," Hayden protested, even as his mind calculated possibilities. "The underground markets would pay handsomely for an alien noble, paralyzed or not." "I believe I just did," Zenith replied smoothly. "Unless you'd prefer I have my sentinels escort you out without any compensation whatsoever?" Hayden's hand instinctively moved toward his weapon, but he forced it back down. He was skilled, but not skilled enough to battle through an entire fortress of armed guards. "Fine," he spat. "But this isn't finished, Overlord." As he followed the guards carrying Lyra toward his vessel, he could feel her eyes boring into him. When they were beyond earshot of the throne room, she spoke, her voice low and dangerous. "If you believe I'll be some helpless victim for you to trade to the highest bidder, you're gravely mistaken, human." Hayden met her gaze, surprised by the steel in her voice. "Lady, right now, I'm just trying to figure out how to leave this rock without getting shot. We can discuss your potential value later." Something flickered in her eyes, amusement, before they reached his ship, the Celestial Nomad. As the guards unceremoniously transferred Lyra to his cargo hold, Hayden couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just become exponentially more complicated. The Celestial Nomad's engines hummed to life as Hayden guided the ship away from Zenith's fortress. In the cargo bay behind him, converted into makeshift living quarters, Princess Lyra sat, propped against the wall, her elegant gown pooling around her like liquid starlight. "You're making a mistake if you think you can sell me," she said, breaking the tense silence. Her voice carried an aristocratic lilt that somehow made her threat sound even more dangerous. "The black market traders you're considering, they're all in my father's network." Hayden kept his eyes on the controls, but his jaw tightened. "Reading minds now, princess?" "Please," she scoffed. "I've seen that calculating expression before. But I have something far more valuable to offer than whatever price you think I'll fetch. Let me guess, your eternal gratitude?" He couldn't keep the sarcasm from his voice. "Information." The word hung in the air between them. About my father's illegal weapons trading, his deals with the marauders you just fought, everything. Hayden finally turned to face her, studying her carefully. The ship's ambient lighting caught the subtle shimmer in her silver-blue skin, and for a moment, he found himself distracted by the way her chest rose and fell with each breath, the bodice of her gown doing little to hide her. He forced his eyes back to her face. Why would you betray your own father? Lyra's laugh was bitter. That man stopped being my father the day he decided a paralyzed daughter was worthless to his legacy. He's been trying to dispose of me for months, first through marriage arrangements with decrepit old nobles, then through increasingly tragic accidents. This was just his latest attempt. And I'm supposed to trust you? You don't have much choice, she replied, a hint of smugness creeping into her voice. Your ship's propulsion core is failing. I can hear the irregularity in the engine harmonics. You need credits for repairs, and my information could get you enough to buy 3 new vessels. Hayden cursed under his breath. She was right about the propulsion core. Fine. Talk. Not yet. Her eyes glittered with intelligence. First, we need an agreement. I'll give you everything I know about my father's operation, but in exchange, you help me access certain restricted medical facilities. There's experimental technology that could help me walk again. And why shouldn't I just extract the information from you? The threat was hollow, and they both knew it. Lyra's smile was razor-sharp. Because, Hayden Stone, I've researched you. You're many things. Mercenary, smuggler, occasional hero to the oppressed. But you're not that kind of monster. She shifted slightly, the movement causing her gown to slip further from one shoulder. Besides, I think we could assist each other in many ways. Hayden felt heat rise to his face and cursed his body's betrayal. This alien princess was dangerous in more ways than one. Stop that. Stop what? Her innocence was clearly feigned, but there was something playful in her expression now. I'm merely getting comfortable. It's not my fault human males are so easily distracted. You're injured, remember? Only from the waist down. Her voice dropped to a sultry whisper. Everything else works perfectly fine. Hayden ran a hand through his hair, trying to focus. Let's stick to business. What kind of information are we talking about? Lyra's expression turned serious. Enough to collapse his entire operation. Shipping manifestos, corrupt official contacts, hidden accounts. Everything. But we'll need to move quickly. Once he realizes I'm actually helping you instead of being sold off, he'll send hunters. Great. Just great. Hayden checked their heading, plotting a course away from the Overlord's territory. And these medical facilities you mentioned? Ani Dao. Station Epsilon 7. It's not far, but it's heavily guarded. Getting in won't be easy. It never is. He found himself smiling despite the situation. You know, Princess, you're not what I expected. And what did you expect? A helpless, sobbing noble who'd beg for rescue? Something like that. Sorry to disappoint. Oh, you're not disappointing at all. The words slipped out before he could stop them, and he saw her cheeks darken with what he assumed was the alien equivalent of a blush. A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by the ship's steady hum. Hayden found himself stealing glances at her when he thought she wasn't looking, admiring the way she held herself with dignity despite her circumstances. She caught him once and raised an eyebrow, causing him to quickly look away. We should reach neutral space in about 6 hours, he said, clearing his throat. You should rest. Are you offering to carry me to bed, Hayden Stone? Her tone was teasing, but there was something else there too, a hint of genuine vulnerability. If you need help, yes. He tried to keep his voice professional. But something tells me you figured out ways to manage on your own. Smart man. She used her arms to adjust her position, movements graceful despite her limitations. But I might take you up on that offer someday. Station Epsilon 7 loomed before them, a massive structure of gleaming metal and pulsing energy fields. Hayden guided the celestial nomad through the docking procedures while Lyra studied the station's schematics on a holographic display. "The medical facility is in section M3, she said, her fingers dancing through the projection. "But there's a problem. The station's administrator is Commander Draven." Hayden's hands tightened on the controls. "The same Draven who controls half the illegal operations in this sector?" "The very same." Lyra's lips curved into a knowing smile. "And he's been trying to acquire my father's weapons contracts for years." Before Hayden could respond, the ship's communication system crackled to life. A message scrolled across the screen, an invitation to meet with Commander Draven himself, along with an offer that made Hayden's eyes widen. 5 million credits, he whispered, just to hand you over to him. "And?" Lyra's voice was carefully neutral. "Are you tempted, Hayden Stone?" He turned to face her, taking in her elegant pose despite her confinement to the makeshift seat. During the past days, he'd grown accustomed to her presence, to their verbal sparring matches that always seemed to carry an undercurrent of something more. "You know what's interesting," he said, ignoring her question. "Draven's offering exactly what your father's weapons contracts are worth. Almost like he knows what information you're carrying." Very observant. She adjusted her gown, the movement, deliberately drawing his eye. "Draven has spies everywhere, but he doesn't know everything. Such as the fact that I've already transmitted copies of all my father's data to secure locations. If anything happens to me, it goes public." Her smile turned predatory. "And such as the fact that the experimental medical technology I mentioned, it's not just for treating paralysis. It's a breakthrough in neural interface technology that both Draven and my father would kill to possess." Hayden ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Lyra had come to recognize as a sign of frustration. "You couldn't have mentioned this earlier. Would you have believed me?" She reached out, catching his hand as he passed near her. Her skin was cool against his, sending an unexpected shiver through him. "Besides, I needed to be certain." "Certain of what?" "That you're the kind of man I thought you were." Her thumb traced patterns on his palm. "The kind who sees beyond the surface, beyond a paralyzed alien princess who's supposedly nothing but a burden." Hayden found himself stepping closer, drawn by something in her eyes. "And what kind of man is that?" "The kind who's about to help me steal revolutionary medical technology from under the nose of one of the sector's most dangerous crime lords." Her smile was both challenging and inviting. "Unless you'd prefer those 5 million credits," he laughed, surprising them both. "You know, Princess, I'm starting to think your father was an even bigger fool than I initially thought." "Oh?" Her eyebrow arched elegantly. "He saw you as damaged goods, a burden to be discarded." Hayden leaned down, his face close to hers. "But I'm seeing potential, a mind sharp enough to outmaneuver both your father and Draven, the courage to risk everything for a chance at mobility, and..." He paused. "And?" Her breath hitched slightly. "And someone who makes me forget she's supposed to be a burden every time she opens her mouth to challenge me." A deep azure blush spread across her cheeks, but her eyes sparkled with mischief. "Only when I open my mouth?" "Don't start," he warned, but couldn't help smiling. "We need to focus. How do you propose we get into this medical facility?" Lyra activated another holographic display, this one showing the station's security patterns. "Draven's invitation is actually perfect. He'll be expecting you to either reject it or try to negotiate. Instead, you'll accept, while I use the maintenance tunnels to access M3. There's a service elevator that's perfect for someone who's good with upper body strength." She demonstrated by easily lifting herself with just her arms. "I'll need you to create a distraction when I reach the lab." Hayden watched her movements, admiring both her physical capability and her strategic thinking. And what happens when Draven realizes we've played him? By then, we'll either have succeeded or be dead, she shrugged, the movement causing her gown to slip slightly. But I don't think we'll fail. Such confidence. In myself? Always. In you? Her eyes met his, suddenly serious. More than I expected to have in anyone. The moment stretched between them, heavy with unspoken possibilities. Finally, Hayden cleared his throat. We'll need supplies, and you'll need something less conspicuous to wear. Are you saying my royal attire isn't suitable for crawling through maintenance tunnels? She affected an exaggerated pout. And here I thought you enjoyed the view. Princess Lyra, she corrected softly. After all we've been through, I think you've earned the right to use my name. Lyra, he tested the name, liking how it felt. We should prepare. Draven's not known for his patience. No, she agreed, her expression turning thoughtful. But then, neither am I, especially not when I'm this close to walking again. To being able to... She trailed off, her meaning clear in the way her eyes traveled over him. Hayden swallowed hard and forced himself to focus on the mission plans, but part of him couldn't help wondering what it would be like to see her walk, to watch her move, with the same grace she showed even while confined to sitting. To dance with her, perhaps. The stolen medical technology hummed softly in the celestial nomad's makeshift medical bay, its neural interface glowing with a soft blue light as it integrated with Lyra's nervous system. Hayden watched the diagnostic screens, his expression a mixture of concern and fascination. How does it feel? He asked, noting the flush spreading across her silver-blue skin. Strange, Lyra breathed, her fingers gripping the examination table's edges. It's like every nerve ending is awakening at once. I can feel my legs again, but there's something else. She trailed off, her eyes meeting his with an intensity that made his breath catch. The neural enhancement seems to be affecting more than just your motor functions, Hayden observed, studying the readings. Your entire sensory system is being amplified. You have no idea, she whispered, reaching for his hand. The moment their skin made contact, she gasped. Hayden, Dr. Valen's notes mentioned potential side effects, he interrupted, trying to maintain professional distance despite the electricity that seemed to spark between them. But this level of neural stimulation wasn't documented. Perhaps, Lyra said, her voice husky. He never tested it on someone of my species. Or perhaps, she pulled herself up with remarkable strength, the medical gown clinging to her now fevered skin. He never tested it on someone who already had such strong feelings for their caretaker. Hayden swallowed hard. Lyra, you're not thinking clearly. The neural enhancement is affecting your judgment. No, she cut him off, her grip on his hand tightening. It's not affecting my judgment. It's just intensifying everything I already felt, making it impossible to hide behind clever words and subtle glances anymore. The ship's environmental controls seemed to be malfunctioning because the temperature in the medical bay felt 20 degrees higher than normal. Hayden tried to focus on the medical readings, but Lyra's presence demanded his attention. We need to monitor the integration process, he managed. Make sure there aren't any dangerous complications. The only dangerous complication, Lyra said, pulling herself closer to him with her enhanced strength, is that if you don't kiss me soon, I might actually combust. That's the neural enhancement talking. Is it? She raised an eyebrow. Then why is your heart rate elevated? Why are your pupils dilated? The enhancement might be amplifying my needs, Hayden, but it didn't create them. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she now recognized as both frustration and attraction. This isn't how I wanted this to happen. How did you want it to happen? Her fingers traced patterns on his arm, each touch sending shivers through both of them. After a proper courtship, some noble ceremony? In case you've forgotten, I was literally given to you as a joke. Don't remind me, he growled. Why not? It's rather poetic, isn't it? Her smile was triumphant. My father thought he was punishing both of us. Instead, he gave me exactly what I needed: someone who saw my potential instead of my limitations, someone who helped me become whole again. You were never broken, Hayden said fiercely. Paralyzed or not, you were always the most capable person I've ever met. And now, she gestured to her legs, which were beginning to respond to her commands. Now that I can feel everything, move everything. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Now that every nerve ending in my body is screaming for your touch, Hayden groaned. You're going to be the death of me, princess. On the contrary, she purred. I think I'm going to be the life of you. Now, are you going to keep pretending this isn't exactly what we both want? Or... He kissed her. The neural enhancement made every sensation explosive. Lyra's enhanced nervous system transmitted every touch, every breath, every heartbeat with crystal clarity. She could feel the rough stubble on his jaw, the heat of his skin, the way his pulse raced to match hers. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Lyra's eyes were glowing with an inner light, a side effect of the neural enhancement, responding to her elevated emotional state. Well, she said, her voice shaky but amused. I suppose that's one way to test the system's response to stimulation. We should really run more diagnostic tests, Hayden said, not sounding very convinced himself. Oh, I plan to run extensive tests, Lyra assured him, her enhanced strength allowing her to pull him closer again. Very thorough, very detailed tests. For science, of course. Of course, he agreed, unable to help smiling. But first, we need to make sure the enhancement is properly integrated. I won't risk your health, no matter how persuasive you're being. Fine, she sighed dramatically. But you should know that according to these readings, physical contact with you appears to be stabilizing the neural patterns. Almost as if... As if what? As if we were meant to be compatible. She touched his face gently. As if my father's cruel joke was actually the universe's way of bringing together two pieces of a puzzle. That's a rather romantic way of looking at it. I'm a princess, she reminded him. Romance is in my blood, along with, apparently, an overwhelming attraction to stubborn human mercenaries who treat me like a person instead of a burden. The warning alarms on the medical equipment startled both Hayden and Lyra from their intimate moment. Red lights flashed across the diagnostic screens as Lyra's neural readings began to fluctuate dangerously. Something's wrong, Hayden muttered, quickly scanning the data. The enhancement is destabilizing. Lyra's grip on his arm tightened as pain flickered across her features. I can feel it. It's like my nervous system is trying to reject the technology, but... Her eyes widened as she noticed something peculiar. Hayden, look at the readings when you're touching me versus when you're not. He followed her gaze to the neural pattern display. When they maintained physical contact, her readings stabilized almost immediately. The moment they separated, the destabilization began again. That's unexpected, he said, unconsciously pulling her closer as the readings improved. The enhancement seems to be using our physical connection as an anchor point. Of course it is, Lyra laughed weakly, pressing herself against his chest. The universe has a rather twisted sense of humor, doesn't it? First, my father gives me away as a joke, and now the technology that's supposed to free me apparently requires me to stay physically bound to you. We need to find a more permanent solution, Hayden said, trying to maintain his professional focus despite the distracting warmth of her body against his. We can't exactly stay like this forever. Can't. We? Her tone was playful, but there was a hint of vulnerability beneath it. Would that be so terrible? Before he could respond, the ship's proximity alerts blared. Multiple vessels were approaching, and their energy signatures matched both Draven's forces and Zenith's fleet. Perfect timing, Hayden growled, reaching for the ship's controls while keeping one arm firmly around Lyra. Think you can handle navigation while I focus on weapons? Please, she scoffed, her fingers dancing across the nearest console. I was piloting luxury cruisers before you were stealing them. I never stole a luxury cruiser. No? What about the Solar Empress? That was a legitimate salvage. Their banter was interrupted by the first volley of enemy fire. Hayden jerked the ship hard to port, keeping Lyra steady against him as they evaded the attacks. Their unusual forced proximity actually worked to their advantage. They moved as one unit, anticipating each other's actions with uncanny precision. They're trying to hedge us in, Lyra observed, her enhanced nervous system allowing her to process tactical data at remarkable speeds. Draven's ships are herding us toward my father's forces. Good thing we're not going either way, then. Hayden grinned, his free hand activating a series of controls. Remember those modifications you called unnecessarily flashy last week? The ones that would probably blow up our engine? Her eyes narrowed. Hayden, don't you dare! He dared. The Celestial Nomad's engines screamed as experimental thrust modulators engaged, sending them shooting through a gap in the enemy formation that technically shouldn't have been possible to navigate. Lyra's enhanced reflexes were the only thing that kept them from clipping several pursuing vessels. You're insane, she gasped, half laughing, half terrified. Brilliantly, wonderfully insane. You love it, he shot back, then froze as he realized what he'd said. Yes, she said softly, taking advantage of a moment of relative calm to turn his face toward hers. I do. The moment stretched between them, heavy with meaning, until another blast rocked the ship. We need to find somewhere to lay low, Hayden said reluctantly, focusing on their situation. Somewhere we can research a permanent solution to the enhancement's stability issues. I might know a place, Lyra said thoughtfully. There's a research outpost in the Outer Rim. It's technically abandoned, but I know for a fact that a group of rogue scientists still operates there. They specialize in experimental biotechnology. Let me guess, not entirely legal research? Would I know about it if it was? She smirked. Besides, they owe me a favor. I may have neglected to mention their location to my father when he was conducting one of his purges. Your father really is a piece of work, isn't he? Indeed, though I suppose I should thank him. His latest cruel joke did lead me to you. She pressed closer, sighing contentedly as their contact further stabilized her neural readings. Even if we do need to figure out a way to make this connection permanent without requiring constant physical contact. About that, Hayden said, his voice rough. Even if we find a way to stabilize the enhancement without this, would you want to stay with you? She finished his thought, her enhanced nervous system picking up his elevated heart rate. Hayden? Stone, are you trying to ask if I want to make this arrangement permanent in a more official capacity? Maybe. He managed to sound both confident and uncertain, a combination Lyra found endlessly charming. I mean, we work well together, and there's obviously attraction, and you're the only person who's ever seen me as more than just a burden or a bargaining chip, she interrupted softly. The only one who saw my potential, who helped me realize it. Even if we find a way to stabilize this enhancement without constant contact, I'm not going anywhere. Another blast rocked the ship, reminding them of their pursuit. First things first, Hayden said, plotting a course for the Outer Rim. We need to lose our admirers and find those scientists of yours. Our admirers can certainly try to follow, Lyra said confidently, her hands moving in perfect sync with his across the controls, but they don't stand a chance against us. Together. The rogue scientist facility was a maze of abandoned corridors and repurposed laboratories hidden within an asteroid at the edge of known space. Dr. Alara Vale, the lead researcher, studied the holographic display of Lyra's neural patterns with growing fascination. This is unprecedented, she murmured, adjusting her thick-rimmed glasses. The enhancement isn't just stable, it's evolving. And these hormone levels? She glanced at Lyra, who was practically sitting in Hayden's lap on the examination table. Congratulations are in order, I believe. Hayden froze. What? Lyra's hand tightened on his arm, her enhanced nervous system practically humming with excitement. I'm pregnant? Indeed. Dr. Vale's smile was genuine. And it appears the pregnancy is actually helping to stabilize the neural enhancement. The fetus is acting as a natural bridge between your modified nervous system and Hayden's human biology. That's possible? Hayden asked, his mind reeling. Apparently, it's more than possible, Dr. Vale replied. It's exactly what your body needed. The enhancement was seeking stability through physical contact, but the pregnancy provides a permanent biological connection that satisfies those requirements. Lyra shifted in Hayden's embrace, her skin practically glowing with a combination of joy and intensified desire. That explains the increased need for contact. Dr. Vale nodded professionally. The pregnancy is amplifying the enhancement's effects on your hormone levels. You'll need regular, intimate contact with Hayden to maintain optimal stability. Think of it as prescribed therapy, doctor's orders. Prescribed therapy. Lyra's voice was innocent, but her eyes sparkled with mischief as she felt Hayden's heart rate spike. Precisely. Dr. Vale began gathering data tablets. I'll need to run more tests, but first, the facility security alarm suddenly blared to life. They found us, Hayden growled, already moving toward the door with Lyra seamlessly matching his movements. Their forced proximity had made them extraordinarily coordinated. Take the emergency exit, Dr. Vale ordered, activating security protocols. I'll wipe the data. They can't know about the baby. A successful human-alien hybrid with enhanced neural capabilities would be too tempting a research subject for either Draven or Zenith. Lyra's face hardened at the mention of her father. He wanted to be rid of me as a burden. Now I carry the future of two species within me. Ironic, isn't it? Hayden guided them through the corridor, one arm around Lyra while the other held his, weapon ready. His cruel joke led to something revolutionary. Speaking of revolution, Lyra said as they reached the hangar, I have an idea. Why do I feel like I'm not going to like this? Because you're learning, she grinned, pulling him toward the ship. But you'll do it anyway because you love me. That obvious, huh? As obvious as the fact that I'm carrying your child. Her expression softened. Our child. A perfect blend of human and alien potential. They reached the celestial nomad just as the first explosion rocked the facility. Once inside, Lyra immediately accessed the ship's communication array. What are you doing? Hayden asked, maintaining their necessary physical contact while preparing for launch. Broadcasting. Her fingers flew across the controls. To everyone. The truth about my father's weapons deals, Draven's operations, and most importantly, proof that humans and aliens can create something beautiful together. You're going to start a social revolution while we're running for our lives? Why not? Her eyes glittered with determination. My father thought I was worthless because I was paralyzed. Draven thought I was just a bargaining chip, but you saw my potential. Now it's time for everyone else to see it too. The ship lifted off as the first enemy vessels appeared in the asteroid field. Hayden expertly wove through the debris, while Lyra handled communications and defensive systems, their movements perfectly synchronized thanks to their constant contact. You know, Hayden said as they evaded another volley of fire. When I accepted you as payment for that job, I didn't expect to end up starting a family and a revolution. Disappointed? Lyra asked, though her enhanced senses told her exactly how he felt. Thrilled, he corrected, pulling her closer as they made the jump to safety. Though we should probably discuss wedding plans at some point. I mean, if you want... Hayden. Stone, she interrupted, turning to face him with an amused expression. I'm carrying your child. I literally can't function properly without your touch, and I'm about to overthrow my father's corrupt regime with you. I think we're a bit past traditional courtship. Is that a yes? You're stuck with me forever. You wonderful human who saw past my limitations and gave me everything I never knew I needed. I can live with that, he smiled, then tensed, as another alarm sounded. But first we need to deal with the fleet of ships following us, Lyra finished, already adjusting their shields. Please, they don't stand a chance against us now. We're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. Her hand rested briefly on her stomach before returning to the controls. We're fighting for the future, a future where no one is seen as a burden, where potential isn't limited by prejudice or disability. A future our child can be proud of. Hayden agreed, and together, they turned to face whatever challenges lay ahead, their bond stronger than ever. The Celestial Nomad's communication array buzzed constantly with incoming messages. Lyra's broadcast had struck a chord across the sector, drawing responses from others who had faced similar discrimination and those inspired by their story. Another resistance cell just made contact, Lyra announced from her position in Hayden's lap, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Former military, discharged for various defects, and they want to help. Hayden nuzzled her neck, partly out of affection, and partly because their constant need for contact had made such intimacy as natural as breathing. Your father's going to regret throwing away so many capable people. He already does, she purred, leaning back against him as waves of pleasure rippled through her enhanced nervous system. Our latest intelligence suggests... She gasped suddenly, her body tensing. Lyra? Hayden's concern turned to amazement as the ship's sensors began registering unprecedented energy readings emanating from her body. The neural enhancement, amplified by her pregnancy hormones, had begun manifesting in unexpected ways. The holographic displays around them responded to her thoughts, data streaming faster than should have been possible. Her silver-blue skin glowed with an inner light, and her eyes blazed with newfound power. I can feel everything, she whispered. The ship's systems, the surrounding space. Hayden, I think I can sense the pursuing fleet's movements before they make them. He held her tighter, providing the physical anchor she needed as her powers expanded. The pregnancy must be accelerating. The enhancement's development. Dr. Vale's data suggested it might happen, but not this fast. It's not just the enhancement anymore. Lyra guided his hand to her slightly swollen abdomen. Our child. I can feel their consciousness merging with the technology, creating something entirely new. The perfect bridge between human adaptability and alien potential. A warning alarm blared. Overlord Zenith's flagship had just emerged from hyperspace, leading a fleet of warships. Perfect timing for a test run, Hayden said, but Lyra was already moving. Through their constant physical connection, he could feel echoes of her new abilities, the way she perceived space itself as a malleable medium, how she could predict trajectory and intention through some impossible combination of enhanced neural, processing, and maternal instinct. The celestial nomad moved like a living thing under her control, effortlessly evading the first volley of fire. But instead of running, Lyra did something unexpected. She reached out with her new abilities, touching the enemy ship's systems. What are you doing? Hayden asked, fascinated. Showing them what they need to see. Her voice had taken on an ethereal quality. The truth about what happens when you underestimate those you consider broken. The enemy fleet's weapons powered down as their crews watched the data streaming to their screens. Proof of Zenith's crimes, evidence of his betrayal of his own people, and most importantly, medical scans showing the miraculous development of Lyra and Hayden's child. They're standing down, Hayden observed, amazed. All except my father's flagship, of course. Lyra smiled, though there was steel in her voice. He's too proud to admit he was wrong about me, about humans.